Hi, this is Tammy Goodman, and you saw my things are not going right here. Hold on a second. Let's get started here. So, anyway, you got on here because of my title here that you want to know how to change your life from being a sucky life and to the magic formula as to how to change it into being a prosperous life. So we'll get to that. But first, I want to tell you this story. There was this gentleman, and he found himself in front of a firing squad. And he was in charge of his squad. It was during World War One, and they were behind the enemy lines, and so they took refuge in this camp. It was abandoned, so they thought, and they were subsequently woken in the morning. Can you imagine? You're sleeping but you thought it was abandoned camp, and to wake up with a gun pointed at you, living in that sort of, I can imagine living in the military, those that you have, probably can, the constant stress of being on guard. So they probably had someone watching out, but maybe it was just so barren that they didn't think that there was anybody there, or maybe the person fell asleep. And so anyway, they were standing there in line, and they had 2 feet apart from each other. Imagine your heart's pounding, and you're like, how am I going to get out of this? And so anyway, oh, see the cat. Oh my gosh, I gotta tell this story about this cat. Well, never mind. Just I'll tell it later. I gotta remember this. So anyway, long story short, the guy went to that was in charge of saying fire, took a cigarette and threw it on the ground. And you imagine, it said here, replay this in your mind. He took a log draw of a cigarette, he threw it on the ground, and he squished it out like a bug, and you're sitting there watching him do that. And in that minute that he did that, he heard something, and he looks up, and he hears it, and it's louder. And what happens is the motorcycle came into the camp, and as soon as it came into the camp, they shot the people that was going to shoot them. And no, I'm sorry, I messed it up. I messed it up. No, that's not what happened at all. He yelled something, and as soon as he yelled this in this language, the people in line, the soldiers in line that was going to get shot, realized that their enemy that was going to shoot them had a bigger enemy, and it was on its way. And so they took off and ran, the people that was going to shoot them. And when they were doing that, they backed up, and they got out of there. So How do you think that happened? All right. So anyway, I've got this other story here too. Um, a few years ago, um, I decided that I was going to work my business here. And I was doing, I finally decided I was going to do it. And I was doing very well. In fact, I had all these parties set up and everything. And my horse got killed. I blamed myself because I had opened the gates up and decided that they couldn't go from one field to the other, and then I shut the gate and shut him in by himself, and I didn't know that he had gone back to that field by himself, and there was some old fencing, and he got caught up in it, and once he got caught up in it, coyotes took him down. And you know what? About a week before that happened, even, I had this dream. It was called a prophetic dream, I guess, about almost the same situation. I knew something was going to happen, and I kept searching for what it was going to happen, and I didn't realize it was going to be my horse. So, anyway, I was doing very well with my business, and my horse got killed, and I blamed myself. And then 2 weeks later, I lost my last remaining brother. He'd had health issues, and he was doing very well. And my sister-in-law calls me up one morning, and I was expecting her to say, he's in the hospital again. And she goes, we lost him. So after that, everything seemed to fall apart. And you know, when you're down, the devil pushes you down, and he tries to keep you down. So I went through a long period of, the more you try, the harder you try, the more desperate you get, and that sort of thing. And then you start telling yourself that this isn't for you, and that sort of thing. And you start telling yourself you're not worthy, and you start telling yourself that sort of thing too. So my moral of the story is the mindset that you get yourself into is a lot of how you go from being someone that's prosperous and someone that's negative. So anyway, how I started changing things around is I had to start feeding myself. Like the story that you just heard of the gentleman that his life was spared. And that was a God thing. And then I had to start feeding myself with God's Word. I had to start getting up and saying positive things about myself and positive things that are going to happen, because I was telling myself before, all these things that were going to fall apart. And so the more desperate I got, and the more I was feeding into that and expecting that, that's what exactly was happening. And so the more depressed I got. So in order to go from being a life that is sucks, because that's what I was going through. You have to start feeding yourself positive. You can't expect positive things in your life if you're only feeding yourself negative things. And so that's what you have to do. And you have to start looking at the funny things in life too. You got to start looking at the humorous things. You can't just look at things that are like, oh, terrible and that sort of thing. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. This is something that I have. This is like embarrassing type thing too. We have a cat, and it was just a tiny little thing when we got it. And I looked at it, to see if it was a male or a female. I looked at it, lifted its tail up, and it felt like two little bumps there. It looked like two little bumps. There was two bumps. I never looked at it again. I never looked at this cat again. To me, I looked at it, and there was two bumps. And here, about a couple weeks ago, I'm like, cat, you're getting fat. What? And so my grandson comes over here a couple of days ago, and he goes, your cat's pregnant. And I'm go, it's a male cat. It can't be pregnant. And he goes over there, and he grabs the cat, and he pulls the tail up. He goes, this is not a male cat. And I'm like, it had bumps. It had balls. Oh my gosh. So anyway. So you have to, in life, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. You have to be able to take the negative and start turning it around and positive. You have to start feeding yourself with the positive in your life. And you have to start telling yourself that you're worthy of these things. So if you are, say you're just here like a few years ago, I decided I was worthy to start feeling better about myself. That I had to get to the point where I was so angry first, that no one was going to listen to me, that finally I took it upon myself, that I had gastric bypass. But I should have just demanded that someone listen to me. So anyway, I took the step and said I was worthy to start feeling better about myself. So maybe you're in that part right now where you don't think that you can't take the money, or you don't think you're worthy, or you don't think you're good enough or something. So you have to start feeling good about yourself and start feeding yourself positive things. So that's one of the things that you have to start building up, because how are you going to do better things and do things for God if you don't think you're worthy yourself? So I encourage you to start treating yourself well. If there's something that you have been on your heart and that you want to do, or that you want to get out of where you're at, you have to start thinking that you can, and you have to start feeding that. So those are the things that you have to start doing. There's other things that you can do too, but those are the basics. All right, everybody, you have a great day. And remember, blessing others blesses yourself too. So that's one of the things too. You start feeling better about yourself too. When you're blessing others, it fills your cups up too. So have a great day and bless someone else.